for 5 minutes.
Again, thank you to our witnesses for being here. I think it's clear that we all agree that we do not want to see animals harmed and that there is work to be done to reduce our reliance on animals for medical and scientific research. So I'd like to start with you, Ms. Baker. Can you talk about where you think some of the current gaps in the oversight of animal are in the animal experimentation?
Yeah, I think we have some major issues with oversight. We don't know really how much spending is going to animal experiments. The public is largely in the dark. We try so hard to understand this information, and we have to come up with some of it on our own. It would be great if the federal government would be more transparent in this way. We do know that in 2016 the NIH said that for fiscal year 2015, 47% of extramural grants used mice. $7.4 billion is what that would be in 2024. In 2021, NIH issued a figure that said about 8% of grants go to non-clinical, non-animal approaches. Well, non-clinical approaches really mean the animal tests or some of these, or the alternatives. And so a ton of money is going into this. We wanted to understand for cancer. Cancer is one disease area where it is well known that animals are just really poor predictors of human outcomes. We get cancer differently. It behaves differently in our bodies. The failure rate for cancer drugs is 94%. We have cures for cancer in mice, we don't in humans. And so we wanted to look at what is the National Cancer Institute doing? How are they funding? What does their funding look like? And so our analysis is not perfect because it's based on, unfortunately, just the publicly available information, which is not totally transparent. But we found that 45% of their grants seem to be animal related. And so the NIH can really, I think, help by ensuring that there is transparency around this. There's also an oversight issue.
I'm just going to reclaim, because I'd like to get to Dr. Locke too, but thank you. Dr. Locke, you talked in your testimony about several different technologies that you've worked with that are direct alternatives to animal testing. Can you speak to the success of these technologies and what Congress can do to be more supportive of the efforts to expand other innovative technologies in this space?
Yes, thank you for your question. I think there are at least two things that Congress can do. The first thing Congress can do is to really get a handle, as my colleagues have said, on how much money we're spending on these technologies. The transparency issue is severe. So since this is a committee on accountability, I would say the first thing we need to do is we need to count. We don't have that information. You don't have that information. The second thing that needs to be done is that these technologies need to be what I would call validated. And by that I mean they need to be shown that they're relevant and reliable for a particular purpose. One of my frustrations now is that the federal agencies are not doing that. They seem to be very reactive, and they seem to want folks who are in the field to bring the data to them, and then they're going to make the decision, well, we accept this data or don't accept this data. That's a really bad situation to be in. These folks who are developing the methods are entrepreneurs, they're innovators. They have to know what kind of target they're shooting at. The third thing I would say is that we really do need to get a handle on the animal research we're doing. Again, that's an area of transparency. And we need to develop metrics so we can figure out what part of that research is actually working and what part is not working. And then, as my colleagues have suggested, I think we should be sunsetting the stuff that's not working and reinvesting that in these new methodologies.
Thank you very much, Dr. Locke. And as we move to decrease our reliance on animal experimentation, it's important to acknowledge that unfortunately there are still companies and organizations that still utilize animal testing. So what can be done to move these places toward alternative models like the ones you have mentioned?
Thank you for that question. I think there's several things that can be done. The first thing we can do, and I have some bias here as an academic, is we can train our students in these new methods. We have to move away from animal tests, and animal research is always the gold standard. The second thing we can do is we can energize the whole federal grant system to make it much more friendly so that folks who want to use these alternatives can actually go out and get research money to study them.
All right, thank you. And with that, Madam Chair, I yield back.
Okay, thank you. I will now yield to Ms. Boebert for 5 minutes.